All right, everyone, please take your seats and quiet down. All right, so for today's lesson, I'm going to be passing out a sheet of newspaper to everybody that has a political cartoon on it. Please take one and pass it back. Everybody, please make sure you get one. All right, so thank you for doing that. And while you're doing that, I'm going to tell you what we're going to be learning today. So today's lesson is about political cartoons, the history of political cartoons and how they've been used. You will need to have a firm grasp of this in order to do assignments that come later in this class, later in the term. So please make sure you're absorbing the material. Okay, so again, everybody, today we're learning about political cartoons. Now, this is just the beginning of this lesson plan. It will tie into later lesson plans, so you'll need to have a firm grasp of it when we revisit it later. If you don't, you're going to struggle with it as we get later into history. Political cartoons become more pronounced, so make sure that you're paying attention during this lesson. All right, so in this lesson, you're going to learn what a political cartoon is, how political cartoons came to be, what types of political cartoons are there, the effects of the different types of political cartoons, and how to draw political cartoons yourself. Okay, so everybody, with this one, what a political cartoon is, I'm going to give you the definition of it. A political cartoon is a cartoon that makes a point regarding a political issue or event. So, as you can see, I have a political cartoon up here. In this political cartoon, we can see President Trump. He's walking towards a car with a bunch of clowns in it with 2016 GOP on it. And in a little annotation at the top, it says, "Here comes our driver." So the artist here, he's obviously trying to make a point. He's obviously trying to tell us about a political event or issue. And if you don't know what this political event or issue is, ask your parents. We all know about President Trump. If you don't know about him, I'm pretty sure your parents will be happy to tell you about him. So this is what a political cartoon looks like. You need to understand this, and as you can see, I described things in it. I described the car. I described the 2016 GOP written on the side. I described the annotation. I described Trump walking towards it. There's also music symbols there. There's a flower. There's a lot in this, and you have to see this. You have to see it all if you're willing to understand this. Okay, so in this section, we're going to be learning about the 5 different types of political cartoons. This is something that you're going to need to know in order to have a firm grasp of the political cartoons and how they work and how they've worked through history. I mean, you need to understand how they've came up through history and what a political cartoon has had and done in historical context. So the first one is labeling. Objects or people are often labeled by cartoonists to make it clear what they stand for. So a cartoonist will use this in order to take a political event or a political person and basically trash them or hype them up. And they're going to use their opinion in this. So this one's pretty popular. This one, you're going to see some humor in these, a lot of satire in these. So it's one of the most popular used. The next one is analogy. Cartoonists will draw a comparison between 2 unlike things. A lot of times in this one, you're going to see political parties represented differently, or 2 political rivals represented differently, or even religious groups represented differently and how they view things differently. So be ready for that with analogy. The next one is symbolism. Objects are used to stand for larger concepts or ideas. In symbolism, you're going to see religion. Religion is one of the biggest political cartoons that you're going to see with symbolism. So be ready to see that. And yes, religion can be politicized. So guys, please make sure you're paying attention to that, guys and girls. All right, next one is irony. The difference between the way things are and the way things should be. So this is where a political cartoonist uses maybe healthcare, and they say, "I believe that healthcare should be universal. Healthcare is universal." And then you see a dying patient, and the dying patient isn't getting the health care they need because it's not universal in the United States. So that's the irony of healthcare. All right, so the next one is Exaggeration. Cartoonists will overdo physical characteristics of people or things to make a point. So in this one, this is the most widely used, and you're going to see a lot of satire, a lot of humor, a lot of trashing of political parties, people, presidents, speakers of the House, senators, whatever. You're going to see the cartoonists really go off on this style. So be ready to see that. Okay, so in this part, we're going to be talking about the history of political cartoons, and this is why you need to know how political cartoons came to be and how they work. So the first political cartoon was published in the Pennsylvania Gazette on May 9th, 1754. This political cartoon was part of an editorial by Benjamin Franklin in regards to the political climate of the time that led to the American Revolution. So you can see this political cartoon, and I'm not going to discuss what this political cartoon is. I am just going to let you guys look at it for now, because we're going to analyze it a little later on. But the thing you need to know about political cartoons is they weren't used until around the American Revolution. People did not defy their political leaders with political cartoons. They were something that was new to the time, but they became very popular at the time. We started seeing political cartoons influence the American mind and started having a great influence on the American Revolution. And as we get into the American Revolution, you're going to start seeing more and more of these political cartoons pop up, and you're going to have an understanding of why they were so important. And this is why we're learning this today, because when you learn history, you need to learn why they were so important, how they influenced the times, how they influenced financial times, how they influenced political times, how they influenced people to make decisions they made at the time. And it helps you understand history a lot better. So, especially with the American Revolution, since it was such a new concept at the time. Okay, so in this part, we're going to talk about the purposes of political cartoons. On the face of a political cartoon, most might see that it's just something for humor. You might see the comedy in it and just go, ha ha ha, that's it. That's a political cartoon. I love it. They're making fun of so-and-so or such and such. But the thing about political cartoons is there's much, much more to them, and they go so much more deeper. Political cartoons are usually a way to persuade a reader. If you think about it, if an editor or a person writing an article wants to have a reader swayed before they read an article or after they read an article, a political cartoon will be dropped in a newspaper or magazine in order to help that. You'll see political cartoons where it's talking about a controversial issue, and people see the humor in it, but they don't realize there's a subconscious form to it that's really driving that cartoon, and driving the reader that sees the cartoon. This is why political cartoons are so political, and because in the end they're politically motivated. We see them, and we see them as humor, but they draw on something inside of us, and that's why they've been so popular, so widely used throughout time. Okay, so in this section we're going to look at the political cartoons that I have already shown you. One is past tense, one is present tense. For the purposes of this being a history class, we are going to talk about the historical one more in depth. Okay, so the historical one is titled Join or Die. As you can see, it's a snake, and it has abbreviations of what was the colonies at the time. If you look at the head, it says NE, that was the New England colonies. And it goes all the way down to the bottom down there, which should be Georgia. Okay, so here's the thing. You see the snake and you see the colonies, and it's chopped up, it's divided. The body is separated from itself and the head's separated. Well, when you look at it, it says join or die. So for a young man looking at this at the time, or a fighting age man, you would think that he would look at it and say, I have to fight in the American Revolution. I have to go fight the British. I have to be a soldier in the American Army, or the colonial army, as better known for the time. But if you look at this for what it really is, and look at it in depth, the political cartoon that it is really saying is the colonies must join together or die. The colonies have to join. The snake has to become one. So the purpose of this was to get the people to, they wanted to get the people to rise up. They wanted them to fight. This is actually a sense of symbolism. They wanted the symbol out there. Benjamin Franklin wanted the symbol out there that we had to unite, and we had to unite as soldiers, as colonies, in order to make this revolution happen, or in order to get the rights the American colonies felt they so deeply deserved, that the British Empire they felt was not giving them. So that's the purpose of the first one. The second political cartoon, okay, so this one is more present time, and in the end, I mean, it's pretty obvious, but there are some hidden things behind it. Okay, so in this one, like we discussed earlier, you have Trump walking towards a car. You have 2016 GOP written on it. You have Here Comes Our Driver, music playing, a flower on the tail. You know, it's full of clowns. This really just symbolizes that this is labeling, if we're going to talk about what it is. And the purpose of this is that President Trump is the leader of the GOP party now, the Republican Party. At the time, he was their candidate for president. He was the leader of the party. And the cartoonist really felt that he was the head clown. He wanted to portray him as the head clown. He wanted President Trump to look like the head clown. And he, you know, for labeling purposes, maybe a little bit of exaggeration purposes, did a pretty good job of it. You know, they really drove the point home. So that's how you break down a political cartoon and get its purpose, get its understanding, because it's deeper than it looks on the front. Okay, so to finish this up, we're going to talk about the assignments that are due. Now, this assignment I'm going to give you until Friday to turn it in. This assignment is pretty big. I really want some detail on this. It's not an overnight assignment. I really want your understanding of this, because you're going to need to understand it as we go into the American Revolution. And as we get deeper into the Civil War era, Spanish-American War, there was a lot of political cartoons that happened during this time, and presidential elections were greatly affected by political cartoons. So with this, the political cartoon that you have on your newspaper, and each of you have a separate political cartoon on your newspaper. These are all different newspapers. But you all need to take that political cartoon. You're going to break it down. You're going to give the definitions of it for me. Okay, so here, the assignment sheets are here. We're going to take one and pass it back. All right, so everybody just take one, pass it back. Everybody make sure you get one, because you have to have this in order to get the assignment done. Okay, so as you can see on the assignment list here, we have 3 different levels of how you're going to break down a political cartoon. First level is just basic. I just want basic information. You don't need to bust it down greatly at this point. Just give the basic. There's level 2. All right, this is going to be more informative. I want more information of the basic information you gave me, or even more information than that was there in the basic information. Okay, and then level 3 of this assignment, this is going to be the big shot, everything that the assignment is about. Okay, you're going to really break down what the political cartoon is, what the symbols mean, who the message is for, what it's about. Okay, you're really going to need to make sure you get this part down. Okay, so you're going to write down all of your answers on a separate sheet of paper. You're going to take your separate sheet of paper, the assignment, and the political cartoon that you have in your newspaper. You're going to staple it all together. It's all going to be turned in as one. Okay, so make sure you spend some time on this. Make sure you really try to understand what this political cartoon is. Okay, then next, that's just the first part of the assignment. The next part is you're going to have a little fun with it. You're going to draw your own political cartoon. Now, I know what everybody's saying. I can't draw. Not everybody's an artist. I understand that. I'm not asking you to be an artist. What I'm asking you to do is give me a historical political cartoon from pre-American Revolution. Okay. I want something from that time that states a political opinion. You can get the information out of your textbooks. You're going to need to read up on it a little bit. Draw the political cartoon, have some symbols in there, have some dates, things like that. I want to see you break this down. And then I want to understand what your political cartoon is. Okay? I want you to tell me what it is. Now, I'm going to decipher it myself before I read your explanation, and I hope our explanations come up pretty similar. If not, well, we'll work on it. But outside that, don't worry about the art. Please worry about the context of the political cartoon. Okay, so that's the end of this lesson. Let's everybody get started. Let's make sure that we're staying quiet and working on this. You can work as teams in the beginning if you would like. For the rest of this class, I would be okay with that. Let's just not be too noisy. Respect our neighbors. Make sure we're working towards our objective. And thank you for your time.